NT Rose's Picture Book channel in English. Am I a thief cat? In a small mountain village, there lived an old man named Tom and his wife Grace. Their home was a wooden house, aged yet lovingly cared for in every corner. Every morning, Tom would head out to the fields to tend his vegetables, while Grace worked diligently inside, keeping their home in perfect order. They didn't live in luxury, but their hearts were warm, and their days were filled with smiles born from kindness and care for one another. A stray cat had made their home his own. His name was Max. No one knew where he had come from. One day, he had simply appeared. Once a wanderer, Max had found his place in Tom and Grace's hearts, and before long, he was living with them as if he had always been part of the family. Max would spend his days basking in the sunlight on the porch or quietly watching over Tom as he worked in the fields. One day, as Tom gently stroked Max's head, he said, "Having you here, it warms my heart." Grace smiled softly and added, "It's true. Max, you're like an angel to us." Their days together were quiet and peaceful, filled with smiles that came naturally. Birds sang in the clear sky above, and from the fields drifted the gentle scent of earth, carried on the breeze. One day, after about 3 years of such happy days, Tom suddenly fell ill. The man who had once worked the fields with such strength now lay weak and frail in bed. Grace stayed close by his side, caring for him tirelessly every single day, while Max watched on with quiet, worried eyes. After Tom became bedridden, all the work in the fields fell on Grace's shoulders. Under the hot sun, she worked without rest. Her hands grew rough, her back ached, and fatigue weighed heavier each day. Max could only watch, a heavy sense of helplessness settling deep in his chest. "Isn't there something I can do? Anything at all?" Max murmured to himself as he padded down the narrow village paths. He wandered between houses, sniffing the scent of grass, searching for a way to help the two he loved so dearly. But the more he searched, the more his longing grew, and still no answer came. That night, gentle moonlight poured softly into the house. Max sat by the window, gazing quietly at the view outside. Unable to do anything, his heart ached with frustration. "Is there really nothing I can do?" he whispered. And then the smiling faces of Tom and Grace came to his mind. Max slowly rose to his feet and quietly stepped outside into the night. The cool night air brushed against his fur, and the gravel beneath his paws crunched softly. He was headed toward one of the wealthiest homes in the village. It had a tall, sturdy gate, polished windows, and warm light spilling from its fine rooms. Max stood still for a long moment, staring. Yet doubt lingered in his heart. "This would be stealing. I know it's wrong, but—" The thought of Tom and Grace's smiles nudged his paws forward before he could stop himself. Finding a gap in the wall, Max slipped quietly inside. Moonlight spilled into the silent room. On a shelf sat a plump loaf of bread and some glossy, ripe fruit. Max gently gripped the bread in his mouth, careful not to make a sound, and padded softly out of the house. He slipped away unseen, hurrying back toward the two who were waiting for him. The next morning, while Grace was preparing tea, Max quietly placed a loaf of bread and some fruit in front of her. "My goodness, Max, where did you get these?" Grace's eyes widened in surprise. Max glanced away for a moment, then quickly put on a grin. "Don't worry, someone gave them to me. I'm kind of a big deal, you know." Grace looked at him as if she couldn't quite believe it. But seeing Max's determined little face, she smiled gently and said, "I see. Thank you, Max." From that night on, Max would wander the village under the cover of darkness, quietly finding wealthy houses and carrying back small amounts of food. Bread, meat, vegetables, fruit, loads far too heavy for his small body. He carried them through rain and wind, one determined step at a time. Yet each time he walked those silent night roads, a heavy feeling grew inside his chest. Is this really the right thing to do? But then Tom would smile at him, Grace would say, "Thank you," and each time Max would push those feelings deep down and quietly walk on through the dark. Suddenly, one night, Max was spotted by a villager. "It's the thieving cat! Catch him!" Shouts rang out as people armed with sticks and stones began to give chase. Max's heart pounded as he ran for his life. Then, a stone struck his leg, sending him tumbling to the ground. Pain shot through him, and his breath caught in his throat. But he gritted his teeth, forcing his trembling legs to move. I have to bring this to Tom and Grace, no matter what." Unsteady, but determined, Max began to walk forward again. Max finally made it back home, his body caked with mud and blood, his legs unsteady from pain. But, not wanting Tom or Grace to see him this way, he quietly placed the food in the kitchen and slipped out without a sound. Some time later, Max lay in a small patch of grass at the edge of the village forest. The night was still and quiet. A large moon bathed the sky in gentle light. Though his wounds ached, his heart felt strangely calm. "I've received so much love from Tom and Grace, happy memories, a warm and safe place to belong, all given to me by them. Now it's my turn. This is the one thing I can do for them." Max took a slow breath and gazed up at the sky. Tom's illness continued to progress, despite Max's nightly efforts to bring food and help care for him. No matter how hard Max tried to support them, Tom's strength faded, little by little, day by day. One quiet evening, the room was dimly lit, and not a breath of wind stirred outside. Grace sat beside Tom, gently holding his hand. Max stayed close, listening carefully to the sound of his breathing. Tom slowly opened his eyes and looked at Max. In them shone both deep love and the quiet resolve of farewell. "Max, take care of Grace for me. Just having you by her side, that's enough to keep her happy." Max held back his tears and nodded. Yes, yes, Tom, I'll always stay by Grace's side." Tom gave a faint smile. Then, with a single tear tracing his cheek, he quietly closed his eyes. He slipped away as if falling asleep. Grace wept silently, her tears flowing without sound. Max sobbed openly, crying like a child. Max couldn't move from where he was. He just kept staring at Tom's face. The tears still wouldn't stop. In his heart, he whispered over and over again, "Thank you, Tom. Thank you." The morning after Tom was gone, Max woke with the traces of tears still on his face. In the kitchen, Grace quietly heated water, her back seeming somehow smaller and drained of strength. Without a word, Max sat down at her feet. There was no need for words between them. Grace slowly knelt down and gently stroked Max's head. "Thank you, Max. You listened to what Tom asked of you." Max gave a single, quiet nod. About 6 months later, Grace began to find it hard to even sit up, spending more and more days quietly in bed. Except for the times he went out to search for food, Max stayed right beside her. And then, that day finally came. Moonlight streamed in through the gaps in the shoji screens as Grace spoke to Max in a faint voice. "Max, even after Tom was gone, you stayed by my side, and because of that, I was happy all this time." At those words, a single tear rolled down Max's cheek. "Grace, don't go. Please don't leave me. Stay with me longer, please. I'm begging you." Max's small body trembled as he clung to Grace's chest, sobbing uncontrollably. "Max, thank you, and I'm sorry." With those words, she gave the faintest smile, then quietly, as if falling asleep, took her final breath. "Grace! Grace!" Max called her name over and over, his voice trembling as he wept. Tears spilled down his cheeks, falling one by one, dropping softly onto Grace's chest. The morning sun shone warmly through the clouds. A gentle breeze rustled the trees, carrying the scent of spring. Max sat quietly on the wooden veranda, his tail curled around his paws, gazing up at the sky. "Grandpa Tom, Grandma Grace." After murmuring in a faint voice, Max gently closed his eyes. A quiet smile of relief softened his face. When Max opened his eyes again, a field bathed in warm light stretched out before him. As he walked through the soft grass, familiar voices called out to him from somewhere. "Max! Welcome home, Max!" As Max stepped into the light, two familiar figures appeared before him. It was Tom and Grace. They stood side by side, looking healthy and full of life, smiling just as warmly as ever. Without a word, Max broke into a run, straight toward them. "Grandpa Tom! Grandma Grace!" Max cried out, his voice trembling as he threw himself into their arms. "I missed you! I missed you so much!" "We missed you too, Max." Grace beamed with joy and hugged him tightly. Tom gently placed his hand on Max and nodded with a warm smile. From that day on, Max lived happily once again with Tom and Grace. They spent their days tending the garden, enjoying warm meals together, and watching the seasons pass from the porch. Every morning began with a smile, and every night ended with peace. Max was finally home. Except for one thing. On a warm afternoon, Max quietly gazed up at the sky. As if reflecting on the days he had lived, he murmured softly, I wonder if I was just a thief cat. Grace narrowed her eyes gently with a smile and softly stroked Max's head. No, Max. You were never just a thief. You are our precious family. To you who have read Am I a Thief Cat? If this story left even a small warmth in your heart, perhaps it means that Max was able to quietly stay close to someone far away. That kindness in time may gently change the life of someone you hold dear. Story and illustrations, N.T. Rose. A writer who captures the small miracles born between animals and people. With the memory of three beloved cats, Nianta, Tama and Rose, N.T. Rose continues to create stories filled with tenderness and warmth. With Am I a Thief Cat? As a starting point, they are now sharing their work with readers around the world.